Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am your host, Paul Herman, and today we are transforming into a new show, new show. I don't know what the hell I was going with that. I had to use a sound effect somewhere, though. I mean, come on. We're talking about Robert Kirkman's Skybound Entertainment's new Transformer comic books. We're going to be covering Void Rivals. We're going to be covering Transformers Volume 1-ish. Whatever. There's a lot of comics out there for this new universe we'll be talking about, but obviously I can't do it alone, and I need to bring some new people. And this person already told me what the whole setup was like perfect. We had to transform into new host, which I thought was brilliant. But before I do that, I got a couple things to say. If you haven't already, please go subscribe to the channel. I appreciate that very much. Everyone already has. I super appreciate you. And before I even go any further, we are definitely not sponsored, but I'm going to say Hoopla. Yeah, Hoopla is going to be mentioned a lot in this episode, so which I can't wait to talk about. I love Hoopla. But without further ado, I'll bring on the first of our two guests here tonight. We've got Mr. Canada himself, Carlos, coming back. Cape Crusader, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well because you're back. I'm very excited you're back.
Thank you.
Which I need to mention. I need to ask you a couple before we go. If you have any interest in other shows I have doing, especially next week, but we'll talk about it later. I meant to ask it before, but don't make me forget to ask you again. All right, so I apologize. Thank you for coming. You're the one who pitched this show, which we'll get into that in a second. But I'm glad you did. Very glad. This is going to be very, very interesting. So, and before I forget, is Transformers 1 coming out this week?
It comes out pretty quick. I know my guy Nick Zednick got to see it on an early screening, being part of that Chicago Indies critic circle, and I didn't know what to make of the trailers, but his review of it got me totally hyped. So, if it's not this week, it'll be imminent for sure.
Interesting. Oh, Zeddy. Oh, you Zeddy. All right. Anyway, last but not least, my good buddy, old buddy, Mr. Zach. How are we doing today, sir?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. It's we have a very fun thing planned for this Saturday, which I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts on. That's all I'll say. I cannot wait to hear what you talk about this.
You could promote it.
All right. Well, it's a non-podcast. It's actually a group get together of a group of guys, of friends, getting together, talking about comics, comic book club, but it's not a podcast. It's us hanging out, and we're gonna be talking about
before podcasts.
Yeah, before podcast. It'd be a good podcast. I'm not sure we might be canceled, especially Adam, but but either way, no, we're gonna be talking about Kraven's Last Hunt, and we're reading the whole epic, the old Marvel epic. So, but you have not read it yet, you said, right? Is that correct? The first time you read it?
No, I hadn't previously. No, yeah. So this is the first time.
Cool.
I only have the last 4 issues left to go out of the whole epic, so it's like
I've rereading it to
3 to 6.
I've got 3. I think I have 2 issues left of rereading. I've read it many times, and it is. I cannot wait because there's lots of great stuff in there. There's great stuff in that epic besides the best Spider-Man story ever written. But we'll go there. It's not Spider-Man today. It's not Spider-Man. So today,
you're talking about the Iron Man 2020, the greatest Spider-Man.
God damn it. Oh,
Zach's pushing all those buttons tonight.
I didn't like. We could talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right, today we're going to be talking about a little thing that Robert Kirkman has got a hold of, was able to skewer away from IDW and Marvel, or whatever you want to call it, from the Hasbro Entertainment industry, and has created a new comic universe called the Energon Universe that combines both Transformers and G.I. Joe together in one universe, which I think they already were maybe in IDW. To be honest, I assume they already were.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Maybe that's just me.
It's definitely not a new thing for them crossing over. Like that has happened many times. Yeah.
Many times. But I think that, Carlos, are you familiar? Were they already connected in IDW as well?
They were. Yeah, they did 2 crossovers under the IDW banners, and then like Marvel was the first ones to cross them over, like in the 80s.
Right. But crossing over is different, like, you know, because you have like Marvel, DC do crossovers, right? But then like they weren't in the same universe. Were they have like events that like overlapped with each other like every once in a while? Like maybe like one person might like, oh, this the Decepticon I saw fly across, blah 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 blah, like stuff like that, like in a G.I. Joe comic, or was it pretty much like only when they met up together?
Yeah, they definitely, like, they very much shared the same world. However, very rarely did they cross-pollinate between the 2 titles, kind of thing. Like when they did, it would be an event, and the fallout of that event would have lasting impacts as to what happened in their continuity going forward. So that was cool, but it wasn't like a day-to-day kind of thing where you're I don't know, you're reading a Fantastic Four book and Peter Parker shows up, and 2 issues later Peter Parker shows up again, type of thing. It would
that's what I thought. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a little more sense of why this whole new. You're gonna love this. I wish I had a reverb on my Mac, but I do not. I can't do it. I'll do it. I'll just make it myself. The Energon universe. So, which, if you're wondering which comics are on this, you'll see this on any issues, you know, comic store trades. This very not high resolution logo here. Which, by the way, I looked for the high res version of this. I only got this. Welcome to the Energon universe. Anyway, but yeah, so like it's interesting. Really quickly, since you guys are all old school like me. Come on, Robert. What are you doing here? Like, seriously, like, what is that? Like, guys, come on. Like, seriously, I mean, you're not fooling anyone here.
I didn't notice that until you A-B'd it, but that is very, very apparent now.
Yeah. You ain't fooling nobody, Robert. I know what you're doing. That's all I gotta say. So anyway, I ain't hating. Like, I feel it's been inspired by. I'll just say that. So I ain't hating. It's like what it reminds me of, and you guys might recognize this, when like Image, or they'll have those like Image Comics group things on top of the banners, those like nods to like that's what it feels like more than anything. But
or the odd corner box that they've done in the past.
Yeah. Like it's a nod. But I ain't stupid either, Robert. Let's just say that. So anyway, but Carlos, I'm gonna give you the floor here because you're the one who proposed. Like, he said, "Hey, man, you wanted to do the show about Robert Kirkman's new Transformers universe," and I'll be honest, it's something that I kind of thought about doing, but it's kind of I need a kick in the ass, to be quite honest, a lot in doing comic stories. So. Tell me what inspired you to do this. Like, give me and also like, or let me stop you there. Before we get into what inspired you to do this, talk about your history with Transformers, and I'll get Zach, and then we'll go back to you. So what's your history with Transformers in general and G.I. Joe?
Oh, I lived it live and in real time, like as a kid when G1 dropped, kind of thing. I was like that perfect age elementary school kid, if not even before that. And yeah, Transformers was the thing. It was basically all the loves of my life. Transformers and Michael Jackson all showed up at the same time and were live and in living color. And so yeah, I watched that show religiously before school every day. And you know, we didn't have a pile of free cash back then, so got the odd Transformer here and there, but man, I cherish those things and still own them to this day. So yeah, and I've always, it's just one of those things that gets me every single time that they roll something Transformers out, and there's versions of it that aren't to my taste, but yeah, I like the initial bit of the live action stuff, and a few of the reinventions that they've had I've really loved, and a few I could leave. But the thing that really cemented the Transformers love in my house was my oldest daughter, like out of the blue, just fell in love with that 86 movie when she was literally a toddler. Like, we use like these little robot hero figures as potty training rewards.
Aww.
That's like how long she's been ride or die with Transformers.
Sweet.
Wow.
But yeah, because they've become so entrenched in our household. Yeah, when the opportunity came up, or when this universe came up, I had to check it out, and I'm sure we'll get into that whole aspect of it in a minute.
So really quickly, what are your favorite Transformers, and are they the ones you have toys of now?
Oh yeah, like Optimus is my dude.
He's like R2D2. Everyone's got to love him, right? I mean, he's Optimus, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I know, and like really for our generation, like has there been a greater leader in real life or in fiction?
I mean, you're not wrong.
It's debatable.
Yeah.
I'd vote for him. I mean,
Yeah,
I'll say that. Yeah.
I'm a big Dinobots guy, and
Grimlock, word.
yeah, and Jetfire, who didn't love him. I had the one buddy who had that figure when we were kids, and
we had that. Yeah, that was gnarly. Dude, I could never figure out how to transform it though. Like it was beat to shit. I ain't gonna lie. Like my brother, he played the hell out of that thing, and it was just like just dirty and just mangled and could barely. I couldn't even figure it out. But yeah, it was a sweet figure. For sure.
And he was one that not many people had. My buddy, like his mom actually kept it, and when we wanted to play with it, she had to kind of vet the friends, and then the box with Jetfire would come out, and she'd pull it out and get the.
You had to be approved.
I had to be approved. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy. So, but because of that, because he was always the forbidden fruit, I got a strong love for him. And then, Prowl's like my ride or die. Like everybody has kind of that one guy that's their favorite who, isn't the universally beloved character. So yeah, Prowl is my dude.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Prowl. Dude, very quickly, before I go any further, you guys have seen Dr. Smooth's Optimus Prime's Rude Awakening, correct?
Oh no,
I don't think so.
Oh my god. After we're done. Okay, it was made like 20 years ago now, it feels like, but it's like early YouTube. And it's guys doing different voices for the cartoon, one of those things. Okay. But let me tell you, it's about when Optimus reawakens from like the spores, and like he has like it's all new Autobots, and he's like, what's going on here? And he's very confused. I've watched that probably like a million times myself, and will die if you know your Transformers, you will just die laughing. Because Goldbug's in it, and if you know Goldbug, you know what it's so perfect. I just gotta leave it at that. It's amazing. If you know Transformers at all, you'll be. If you're not on the floor laughing your ass off, I don't know. Because it obviously references the movie and what's going on now, and like oh god, my friend Dave and I will just quote it to each other all day, and it's just like, the Goldbug interactions are priceless, or just to sell it on itself. It's like, anyway, we'll leave it there. Go watch it. It's incredible.
It's not the same guy. It's not the same guy who did the Juggernaut one, is it? Like the
I don't know. I don't think so. I could be wrong. He did it. You could tell he did a couple other ones like G.I. Joe that weren't as good. There are some funny ones, but the Rude Awakening has like 10 million views. It's incredible. Oh my god. It's kind of vulgar. Just for the record, it's vulgar at times, but it hits the spot. Anyway, right on. All right, Zach, so tell me your experience and your history with Transformers, and at the very end, tell me your favorite Transformers.
Yeah. So kind of similar to Carlos, but I think I wasn't around for like because I was born in 85, so I wasn't around for like the very first wave of it. But it's one of those things where like I don't even really remember like finding out about Transformers. It just kind of like always existed. And I just, I've always loved giant robots. That's just like one of the best things you can have in fiction. It just like is so cool. Fair. So giant robots that transform into cars and trucks and stuff and jets, like game over, So yeah, it was never like a thing that had to sell me. I was just I loved it. Like I remember getting like the G2 Optimus Prime, like my one like shitty uncle. It was like the one cool thing that he did. He took me to Toys R Us. And I got the G2 Optimus Prime. No, it's funny.
My shitty uncle, he got me Optimus Prime. It was tight.
Yeah, it was like it was like the best day. I remember like listening to Aerosmith "Dude Looks Like a Lady" on the way to the Tacoma Mall.
Hell yeah, dude!
And I didn't know what that song, like I didn't know the title of the song. I thought that he was saying "doing it like a lady." And I was like, I don't know what this means, but this seems like weird and messed up. So a lot of good memories associated with Transformers.
Doing it like a lady. Oh, it's perfect. I like that. All right, sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So when I was first starting to collect comics, you could get the 80s Marvel series like pretty cheap in back issue bins. So I started getting a lot of those. I still don't have all of it because like the back half is kind of hard to find, but I've got like 45 or almost 50 issues of it. So like I really love that original series. And then as an adult later, I got really into the 80s UK Marvel series, which we could talk about that later probably. But like that is like some of the best like hidden gem stuff in that universe. I feel like it's a really, really good. So yeah, it's kind of continued through that. I always love the movie, of course, just like the original 86 movie, I think is like just one of the most fun animated movies that exists basically.
It is. For sure.
Yeah. So I watched the first movie, the Michael Bay, in the theaters, and I was pretty into it, but it just didn't keep up with that series. I don't know. It didn't, it went on.
It's not good. Yeah. It's not great.
It didn't do it for me.
It's not great.
So I never really checked back in with like the comics after the Marvel series too much. So this is the first time I've really like been in like the new media of the Transformers.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that's kind of like the basics. And then my favorites, like when I was a little kid, I love Bumblebee.
Word.
And my kind of like favorite, like Carlos was saying with Prowl, was Blaster, because like I love he turns into a boombox, and he's like really cool in the comics too. He's got like
he is, yeah.
I don't know, yeah. So that's always my guy. I don't have a Blaster. I wish to God that I did.
Well, Blaster, he plays a more pivotal role in the comics later on later in the series, right? Am I not mistaken?
Very much
like
so.
Which also, to sell Dr. Smooth more, Blaster has some great moments in that bit too. I'll just leave it there. It's pretty amazing. I want to when Prime when Prime talks to Blaster, it was just, you'll get what I'm saying. Oh god, I love that so much. Anyway, so right on. So from my experience, it's very similar to both you guys kind of combined. Like, because I'm born 82. I think you're my age, Carlos, right? Are you younger than me? I always forget.
No, I'm just a touch older than you.
Okay, yeah, because I had an older brother, so I inherited a lot. We had Jetfire, we had Soundwave. Wait, no, I always get Soundwave and. Which one is the
Shockwave?
Soundwave's Shockwave. I get Shockwave and Soundwave mixed up. It's Soundwave's the cassette, right? So that's I know Soundwave. I should know this, but Shockwave and Soundwave always confuse me. We had really Soundwave. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Come on, guys. No, but I had Soundwave, Jetfire. We had Bumblebee. We had like a bunch of the little ones. We had I got eventually they re-released in the early 90s. A bunch of the original Transformers, they re-released them. Is that Generation 2? Was that considered that? I don't know. I get confused with this, but
there was reissues, and then there's like Generation 2 that are like repaints. And so if it has a different color scheme that's like way wilder, that's usually G2. Not always, but they just re-released some of them too.
Yeah, I think I just got like some of the re-releases. I got like the Hydro guy because I loved him. Yeah. But I got, but Bumblebee was always my boy. Like I lived and died by Bumblebee. I loved Volkswagen Bugs as a kid. So like Bumblebee he's like the little guy. He was blonde. He's like, I have blonde. I was like, oh, he's like me. He's blonde. You know, like I just
representation.
I know. Yeah. Don't cancel me, goddammit. No, right? No, but like. That's what it was. As stupid as it was, I was like, he's like me. He's YOLO. I don't know. That really is kid logic. So he just was like the relatable like little guy. You know, he hung out with Spike. You know, so and my brother and I, we lived and died by Transformers. You know, and we grew up on comics and reading comics. So we had a number of the original comics too. We like G.I. Joe. I like G.I. Joe as well, but I was probably more of a Transformers kid. I love the movie. Like I've watched the movie a million times. I wept and cried when Optimus died. Literally, I remember that being like,
Yeah,
he
that's
just
brutal.
died.
Yeah,
I,
when you
I
when
remember,
you rent it from the video, like we rented it on VHS. I had no idea what was going to happen in it, and then like Optimus Prime dies, you're like, oh my god, they can't do that.
yeah, I remember when it happened because I remember being like, how come like there's no one I recognize on this cover? Like I remember saying that to myself, like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like, does he come back?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I kept being like, he comes back, right? Like he comes back, and then he turns gray, and my mom's like, or my brother, my brother's older. I think he already knew what was gonna happen. No, he doesn't come back till later. So he comes back. He's like, no, not right now. I was like, huh?
Oh yeah.
So like,
What do you mean?
I was like, what do you mean, a-hole? Like, what the heck? I was like, and we loved it. I mean, like, I love that. I adore that movie to death. And so, and I loved the original cartoons, but like by the time I was watching them, I just couldn't process, like, how do I watch these cartoons? Like, how do I get, like, because I loved Hot Rod. I loved RC. I loved Kip or Cup, right? Cup. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Cup. I was Kip Cup, and then I love Blur. Again, another Doctor Smooth. They're great. It's wait till you see it. All those characters, I loved all those new characters, and then I loved Goldbug because I heard he turned into Bumblebee turned into Goldbug. So like it was all very interesting. Like hearing this from my brother, been watching it kind of unfold a little bit. So, and over the years, like I eventually getting reruns here or there, and then like the Beast Wars. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? Like I had no idea what the hell that was going on. I was like, whatever. But I remember Marvel had a new Marvel series. I bought the first issue with a gatefold, like Optimus Prime transform head. Or it turns into like a war scene. Have that comic still. That comic ruled. I just remember I loved that comic. That was great.
G2, right?
Yeah, it must have been G2 at that point. But I never could get the issues. I just wasn't there. I don't know what happened. Like comic store, I don't know, whatever. But fast forward, I liked the Michael Bay movie, like you said, Zach. I saw the other ones. The second one was god awful. The third one wasn't bad, but at that point I was like, I'm good. I've seen enough. I don't need any more. I never saw Bumblebee. I heard that was great.
Bumblebee is dope. Yeah. And honestly, that first 10 minutes of Bumblebee, I've probably watched it 100 times. Being on Cybertron, and it is the coolest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. So fast forward, I gotten hitches of like Transformers, like bugs. I went on when I was in my digital phase. I bought a bunch of the IDW cheap on through Comixology, and have a bunch of those like original comics. I don't know if I ever picked up the original Marvel stuff. I always wanted to go back and read those original Marvel stuff, Zach. So that's something we definitely had to do eventually for the binge at some point. Yeah. But I started reading from the IDW stuff, but I never got like super into it. I could never like connect to it. I don't know what it was. So fast forward when, I hear about this mysterious series that Robert Kirkman put out called Void Rivals, and what happens, and spoiler alert, it's connected to, the welcome to the Energon universe. So, your boy shows up. I'll just say your boy, Carlos, shows up in this comic series. And I was intrigued because they kept it under wraps pretty well, I thought, to be honest. Yeah. So I was like, I have a friend Neil on through the Spidey Dude Experience who loves this series, loves Transformers, the comics. And I'm like, And then you proposed, not to me like that, but proposed a show idea. Tell me what, did this, tell me what made you want to, pitch this idea to me to do the show. And, you don't have to pitch it hard. You just gotta be like, can I do the show? I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course, but no, but what made you want to do this on the show? Cause obviously you're digging it. So you kind of go into that.
Well, yeah. Cause, we had done a few shows kind of closer together than we had historically. And yeah, you put out the offer to, pitch something to you and we'll run with it. And I was late to the party with this series. It had kind of escaped my purview, but just kind of some backstory. Like I had this Batman that I had drawn on my whiteboard in my office, and my boss comes by one day. He's like, full disclosure, I'm a crazy fanboy too. So for like months, we were
Nice.
trading reading recommendations back and forth. And the ones that I was putting his way, he kind of felt like he was in the hole, because he's like, you've given me so much great stuff, and I don't feel like I've put anything forward. And then he comes to me one day, he's like, have you heard of Void Rivals? And I was like, no. And he's like, dude, you got to read it. Don't look anything up. Just read it. He's like, I think
you lucky
5
bastard.
issues had been out at that point in time.
Okay.
And so he's like, yeah, don't flip ahead in the books. Just read it. So grabbed him digitally. I grabbed like the first 3, and I was like, because he's like, part of it too is the pressure, because it's like the boss, right? So you can't be like, I should get off. And I didn't spend the $3 on these comics. But yeah, so I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like I kind of like the interplay, and it's like, it's a draws on some very familiar storytelling tropes. But then like when the chick happens, when they're doing the salvage thing and it's Jetfire, it blew my freaking mind, man. I was like, just no way. And because I had no idea, and like so rarely do you have these unspoiled, untainted reveals to you in this space now, right? So
you were lucky, man.
Yeah, I ravenously gobbled those up, and I think the first couple Transformers were out at the time, and then maybe 2 issues of Cobra Commander, and then it was like Duke. When I read the first issue of Duke, that freaking sealed the deal and made the Energon universe like my favorite thing ever. Like when you guys get there and when you read the reveal and just see the character work as to how they tie G.I. Joe to Transformers, and that they do it in a really, really meaningful way, right?
Okay.
And even this Cobra Commander cover, where it's like you got the Ark just flying in the background, kind of as a lighting source, almost like it's there's so much thought and care put into it. Cobra Commander, like your mileage will vary depending on how much you like the G.I. Joe movie and where it took that franchise.
Yeah, we'll touch on that at some point a little bit, but yeah, go ahead.
And so that was my favorite, but with Duke, like, dude, it's really grounded, and the way they connect it to the Transformers book, I read the issue twice in one sitting, finished it, and went right back to page 1.
Wow.
So I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. And then, much to my wife's chagrin, I like bought the retro Duke figure off of Amazon, and I got a whole mess going on right now on my living room coffee table. But yeah, they
got you.
Yeah, I was always more Transformers guy than G.I. Joe, but when I was a kid, I actually had more G.I. Joes just because they were really cheap.
They're cheaper.
Right?
Yeah, cheaper.
They're really easy to get.
And they're cool, and they were cool too. I mean, let's be real; they're badass too, you know.
Yeah, and so that that reawakened like my inner like 5-year-old, and he's been awake for however many issues it's been going of the Energon universe.
Right on. So this is fascinating. So we'll start with Void Rivals first, because that's kind of like the first one, obviously, that kind of kicks everything off. And obviously I had to kind of spoil a little bit to Zach. Like, this is kind of like what, brings us to this whole new, Robert Kirkman, whatever. Like, sorry, my computer's frozen here. Sorry, guys. This whole Energon universe, thing we got here. And like, I was like, okay, listen, I'm like, Zach, you're into Transformers. Let's go read Void Rivals. And then I'm like, maybe we'll read Transformers if he wants to do it. I'll at least talk with Carlos a little bit about it. And then I said, Zach, if you want extra credit, you can read it. And you did. You read both. So I'm curious, I'll get to my thoughts here in a second. Obviously, Carlos, you love it. That's why you pitched it to us. So, Zach, I'll get you first blush here on Void Rivals. Going into it, like I didn't say you had to go, Transformers was required, but it was, extra credit. Going into Void Rivals, were you trepidatious? Were you like, do you have any idea what the hell is going on in the series?
Yeah, it would have been awesome to read it like Carlos did, because but like I totally get it. Like, you kind of need a hook to like maybe get me into it, and like it did work. And I gotta say, I really liked Void Rivals. Like, it's a good ass series, man. Like, it's just a solid sci-fi series. And I really appreciated like the art is like very, very good. Like in a way that is like I've seen other artists like that, but it's just like it feels really different from a lot of stuff that's out right now. And like especially from big two superhero comics, which like I love superhero comics, but like the art styles that end up in those books right now are just usually not like what I'm kind of looking for. But this kind of stuff is what I'm looking for. Like, I really like the color design. Like, the line work is awesome. I loved that the first issue, you don't even see, I thought they were robots. I thought the two characters were
right. Me too. Yeah.
Which I was into.
Yeah.
I was into that. And then I was into like, oh, they're actually not robots. That's dope. Like, that was cool too. And I felt like, I don't know if you guys felt like this, but I felt like when they're fully, like, both characters are fully in their suits with their helmets on, it kind of had like a Wall-E and Eva type of thing, because
Yes,
like
I can see that.
right, like the yellow and like brown of the pilot, it's like, what's his name, Garak, is that it?
I have terrible with names. I have no idea.
I think that's it. I think it's that. And then her with like the eyes that are just like Eva from Wall-E. I was like, that's like a really cool kind of a thing to draw on, especially because like I also loved it's kind of, you guys know the 80s sci-fi movie Enemy Mine?
Oh yeah.
Dennis Quaid and
zombies. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. It was really strong vibes of that. Like, the rival planets, and they're stuck on the planet together and they got to work together. I was like, this is great. Like, this is just like really solid sci-fi stuff. And then the Transformer stuff on top of that is just like, it's like, damn, this is like a cherry on top. I can't wait to see where this goes and like, and how it further. Yeah. So yeah,
it's like good in its own right without the
Transformer.
Yeah. So I didn't really know what to expect. I was like a little bit like, is this going to be cool? Is this going to be like kind of like pulling teeth to try to get through this? But I did not find that. I was like zooming through it.
So I want to say that for the record that like I like Robert Kirkman a decent amount. I am not a Walking Dead fan. I'm zombies.
I'm actually
not my
not
thing.
either.
Right on.
Yeah. Like not because I dislike it really. It's just like by the time that came out, I had already kind of had my fill of zombies. I was like, I'm good. Like,
exactly. Yeah. I've seen Zombie, by George Romero. I'm good. Like, I don't need to see anymore. Like, I don't need to see this shit, whatever. But the thing is with Robert Kirkman, I'm a diehard. I'm not diehard because I haven't finished it yet, but I love Invincible. Love Invincible. I got our buddy Zach. Adam. I got Adam into Invincible. Sorry, Zach. I got Adam into it. Our buddies Adam into it, and he got super into it. And I love it. I have all the trades. I have all the all like 1 through 16 volumes of that series. I need to get back on it. I kind of fell off, kind of literally a little over halfway through it. And I'm always meant to go back to it, but just never did. But that being said, I've always liked Robert Kirkman stuff. Everything I've read by his, like he do his Marvel, Ant-Man stuff, I always liked. He did like some Super Patriot comics for Eric Larson. Kind of got to start into comics book a little bit there. I've always liked his stuff, for the most part. And when he obviously got he got this license back from Hasbro. It was interesting because when the whole Void Rival thing happened, I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's cool that because he obviously is not into like Hollywood as far as like, I'm only gonna do Hollywood. Like, he loves writing comics. Like, that's what he loves doing, right? And obviously this is what he's doing here. And Void Rivals, I always thought was probably just a cheap way to like, how do I get this do a cute way of getting Transformers and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'll read Void Rivals. I bet it's a mini series and whatever. And like Zach said, like, I started reading it, I'm like, I kind of like these characters. I kind of like this. The art was great. Like, that's the one thing I really, I mean, let's be real. Skybound's probably paying these people pretty good money, probably better than Marvel and DC are, because they probably have full points on the royalties on this stuff and are getting paid quite a bit of money. And be real, the art was fantastic. The layouts were great. The line work was great. Like Zach says, I mean, like this is not like dynamic, but it's interesting. It's interesting enough for me to like be into it, and like this is the stuff that people like. I feel like layouts like this and storytelling like this from Kirkman and the artist. Again, forgive me that I don't remember the artist's name. I'm really bad with names. This is something that people, I think, in modern comics forget about. That's so crucial, which I'll talk about in Transformers here in a little bit. Is that when you're doing simple dialogue, it is so hard and so crucial to keep a reader interested and keep it going that you have to have dynamics like this of close-ups, of medium close-ups. Like I love the fact that this is them like up close and personal like this, but you have the long view of it, and then you have an up close up of it and how it keeps going. I just love that. Like it's keeping the reader engaged without being boring, but but you're still pushing the narrative and the dialogue forward. So critical. And this is a beautiful, again, this is textbook how you do it in comics, in my opinion. And like the line work, man. I mean, this in black and white. Come on. Yeah. This would just be that's beautiful. Ridiculous. That's
the color is amazing too. You know, like the palette that they use is like really cool, and it doesn't look like everything else. It's like it's super identifiable, but it's got its own style. Like, you know,
it's muted. Yeah, it's not bright. It's in, you know, and we'll get into Transformers, very stylized, and again, I don't think it's bad necessarily, but this is perfect. It really fits the art, obviously, and I like the muted colors. It does have a different dynamic to it, which I really like about it. I'm with you, Zach. I love this. I gotta tell you, like, I mean, Robert Kirkman, he's cooking here. Like, I'm like, I never predicted, and Carlos, I'm gonna get your opinion here in a second. I never predicted that Robert Kirkman might be adding to the Hasbro universe, to be quite honest. It might be making his own, like, kind of rad characters and like whole history that he's adding to this. And I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a cartoon movie, like action figures. Like, I kind of like this.
Bro,
I mean, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say,
dude.
This to me has such a classic setup for like an 80s 90s Saturday morning cartoon, you know, like the two worlds, they're like two halves around a black hole, and they, you know, the characters discover like, oh, we've been fighting for generations, but we're actually like not that different. You know, that's such a perfect setup for like a long running, you know, kind of type of animated series. The other thing I want to say too is like when you had that other page up just now, like those, I think the character designs are phenomenal too. Like they're just like, I don't know, it's simple. It's like, you know, simple shapes, but it's just really appealing to look at, you know, and it's like, it's just compelling. And like I said, again, it doesn't look like everything else, but it's not hard to understand what it is at all.
Yeah, nothing's overdone and very clean.
Before I throw it to you, Carlos, I have one thing I want to add to Zach. He nailed it. And this is something that I actually learned from Leland Chee, the head design artist at Lucasfilm. Not personally. He did a class on it for the convention. I wasn't like hanging out with him or anything, but very clear. But I learned this from him, and I thought it was brilliant because he learned it from the master, George Lucas, when he was doing the prequel stuff. You know, one thing that he told Leland was, he wants things to be recognizable, not by like the design, but by the shape. That's silhouette is what was crucial to George more than anything. If it had a good silhouette, that was usually what won over majority of the designs of what he would approve. And that's what he encouraged artists to start with silhouettes. Don't go like detail, do silhouettes. And that's something that he teaches all the design artists now, or, you know, whatever, like when he said that, I thought like, that's pretty goddamn genius. And I think what you look at that, like you said, like just the silhouettes and the basic outline of it is appealing. Like her head, like the way it's shaped like that. And his head is like kind of like, it's simple, but it's so appealing to look at. And the way you can design that through that simplicity is so perfect. And Void Rivals, man, I gotta tell you, I'm going to keep reading this shit. I ain't gonna lie. This is legit. Carlos, tell me what, you know, obviously, you know, you read it on. Tell me more. Like what your thoughts on this book is.
Oh man, it just gets better. They do tie it a little more into the Transformers lore, but the thing that has really allowed this series to shine is that they
Do we?
Is it me? Is it me? We lost Carlos. We lost you. You're muted. Are you? Did I mute him? Did I? Carlos, we can't hear you, sir. You might have to reboot. I'm not sure.
I think something like that
Uh-oh.
happened to me, and I just
Can't
unplugged
hear
my.
you guys.
There he goes. There he goes.
Okay,
we can hear
you.
now.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Great.
All right. So you left off on it starts evolving to like further into the Transformers universe. Go from there.
Yeah, but it plays with kind of really high concept and background pieces of their lore, and I'm fascinated to see how entrenched they make the Void Rivals into the whole concept of an Energon universe. Because the coolest thing about this whole deal, even through the G.I. Joe books, is that Energon is the thing that ties all the books together. So yeah, they do it justice, and they make the war between the Zertonians and the Argonians and like the background politics so poignant. And like to Zach's point, if they put out like an animated series anytime soon, I think it would do really well because they're playing with themes that are very real world and telling a beautiful story about how close we are with as people and all our commonalities, but we let certain entities and certain things influence and keep us kind of away from each other. So yeah, I've been digging it, and I think like in a different medium that it just gets more exposure by virtue of how people kind of consume things. I think it would just thrive.
Yeah,
I'm with you, man. I think this has been the biggest pleasant surprise of this, and like I'll be honest, I wasn't really, and we'll talk more about this in a second, but I hadn't really felt about reading Duke. I'll be honest, Duke was something that I didn't have zero interest of reading, but you've sold me on it, sir, already. So just make sure you know that. I'm very curious because I do think it's interesting. It's smart of Robert Kirkman, to be honest. It just honestly shows you how much of a good storyteller he is, and he understands structure and what makes sense of like within a greater universe, because he realizes I can't just do like force one aspect and another aspect and shove them together and have them like work together in some, forced way. Mm-hmm. By adding this third dynamic, it's just a different like avenue now that you can kind of go into. And again, like you're expanding the universe and making it even deeper. And there's something interesting there. Like how do the Void Rivals and these different factions, how do they combine with G.I. Joe or Cobra? Like, I have no idea if they do. I have no idea, but maybe they do. Like you add that sense of mystery now that I'm like, it makes it even more intriguing as a new fan, like me and Zach would say, or even you too, Carlos, like we're all kind of coming under this new, like the Void Rivals is like kind of like the gateway drug almost at this point. Like for me, because I'll be honest, if I just read, and we'll get to it in a second, if I just read Transformers, I don't know if I'd be like, I got to keep reading this. I'm like, Void Rivals is what's kind of got me most interested. And I got to be honest, the peppering of the first volume of the Transformers stuff we've gotten has made me like more intrigued with it, to be quite honest. So if it goes even deeper after this, and Duke even talk about Duke, how it connects with that too, I'm in, because I already know how Cobra Commander does, or how that is already a little bit. But again, no spoilers. Like that makes me stoked. So you're saying like Void Rivals only gets better from here?
Oh yeah, like Void Rivals, like it has not really a dip, but they have a couple more pieces of setup and a lot more kind of political things that they spend some time with to develop, and then it really kicks into high gear with the next kind of I don't want to spoil anything, but like
don't spoil it. No spoilers here.
Yeah, there's a cover that you'll get excited about when you see the character on the cover, and it's just like where they progress the reveals that happen through their interaction with that character are pretty cool. And then with Duke don't jump into it like issue 6 kind of ends up with Spike waking up, right? Of Transformers is what we had read.
Right.
Yeah. So read it. There's and it might just be in issue 7 or 8. Like I only reread the first 6, but there's an issue with Starscream has an interaction with planes. Let's just put it that way. And so
in Transformers,
in the Transformers book.
Yeah,
so
because I remember that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So after you read the interaction with Starscream and the planes and the pilots and stuff, then dive into Duke. And you'll see why it got me so stoked, because I was just like, holy smokes, this is what the hook is for these characters. Like, yeah, it was pretty profound.
So that's cool to segue into Transformers now as we'll head towards wrapping this up. But we'll go to Transformers because I will say that automatically I do see how Robert Kirkman and everyone's incorporating the G.I. Joe universe a little bit. Like the seeds are planted a little bit in this comic. Like we all kind of figure that out, but like how it directly connects, I'm already intrigued by. So this is, by Daniel Warren Johnson, a very prominent, popular, comic creator, a very, prolific artist, writer, and has made many waves in the independent and mainstream communities of DC and Marvel, obviously with Wonder Woman, and the, Dead Earth. You've got the Jurassic JLA book. You have I'm not sure what else he did for Marvel. I don't think he did Beta Ray Bill, which is a lot of fun. I will say I liked Beta Ray Bill for the most part. But this was interesting because I have, his Murder Falcon and the Powerbomb books. I have not felt the need to read those, even though people have talked really good things about them, but maybe I will check those out one day. He did do like some cool, like fan art Star Wars stuff. He did he put it online that were pretty cool. I thought he's obviously an amazing artist. I went into this, to be honest, a little bit with high expectations because of his stature as a prominent comic book creator. Robert Kirkman, obviously getting him was a boon, I think, to be honest, and putting him on Transformers seemed like a natural fit. And I'll just kind of give my general thoughts, because this was we were only going to start with Void Rivals. So I liked Void Rivals so much, I wanted to go into Transformers, and I'd see some like great images from, online, from posted from different like comics couples comics counseling. I think that's what I always get the name backwards. Yeah, they love this guy. They always post it, his stuff. And I always thought it was really good. So I went into this book with pretty expectations, and I gotta tell you, I liked it. I didn't love it as much as Void Rivals, and I'm not sure why, or I know why. And this is going to be very controversial. This is why I teased this originally with everyone. So
let's hear it.
I don't want people to hate me. Let's hear it.
Bomb.
Drop power bomb. No. This is. I'll be honest. I think after reading Beta Ray Bill and reading this, and I haven't read anything else. I haven't read Dead Earth. I think that he needs a co-writer, in my opinion. There was a lot, I think the plot was all there. The plot's perfect, to be honest, in my opinion. But the story, how he gets from point A to point B is just kind of messy. And it doesn't flow very well to me, especially when you're dealing with so many different characters. And maybe that's the problem here. The art's fantastic. I'm not going to debate about the art, but how he gets from certain points, I'm like, it doesn't always connect to me. And so when I get to these amazing, like layouts, of like Optimus clotheslining Starscream, I'm like, hell yeah.
He does like a reverse suplex on Starscream too, which was super sick. I was really into that.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's rad. I'm not gonna lie. It's rad. But to get to this point, it doesn't always flow very well to me. And it was very jarring at times to get from hey, we're here, we're this. And I know you have to get from you want to get Transformers in there and get robots fighting each other. You want to get to that point, and you have to get there fast to sell to the readers, But again, not spoiling it, the stuff at the very end was very moving at times that it felt like I wish it was a little more earned Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like I like
Yeah.
it, at least for me as a reader. And like I don't feel like a dick like saying this stuff because I feel like I'm being kind of harsh. But I just gotta be real. Like I just like this stuff is incredible. It looks amazing. But to get when we're getting to that point, it just doesn't always flow. And I'm like, it's very janky to me. And I'm curious, Zach and Carlos, if you felt the same. I'll throw it to you, Zach, first. Am I crazy or do you have the same issue? Like what's your take on these issues?
I'm pretty much with you on that, honestly. Like,
Okay.
because yeah, I really like the art. By the end of the book, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this. I want to keep reading. There was
Same.
definitely moments where I was like, yeah, where I felt like either some character beats were like a little too stock. Like all of a sudden, when Sparkplug just has like his full like Apocalypse Now military gear on, like, I was just like, wait, what? Like that. It felt just kind of like there's just some parts that felt a little off. I think like as far as the characterizations of the Transformers, I think he's got that down cold. Like
I agree.
I was really into like how he characterized the Transformers, like both the Decepticons and the Autobots. Like they had recognizable personalities that were different, and it felt true to like what you knew, even if you hadn't kept up with Transformers, for years and years. I feel like like a dad from the '80s could like drop into this and like be like, oh yeah, that's Ratchet. Like that's like there was like a total music nerd thing that Jazz said. Like when Jazz transforms, he says like 251, which is like the classic like jazz chord progression. I was like, that's like some homework he did. So like that stuff I loved. There was definitely human characters where I was like, the dialogue feels like a little like off or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I kind of think you're right. Like a co-writer might take this to the next level. Like I think it's good and I want to see where it goes. But yeah, I wasn't like as like all in as I was with Void Rivals. So yeah, I'm pretty much with you.
Okay, cool. Because before I throw to you, Carlos, and make this very clear, I didn't dislike it. There were some amazing, really good, powerful moments that I felt like with Optimus that I really felt. But even to that, to getting to that point with the human, even with some of the Transformers themselves, like there's a lot of benefit of the doubt of knowing these characters beforehand. You have to, in which you naturally are going to have, but it does, because you already are assuming that you're skipping ahead a little bit. And because of that, it makes it a little more less natural when you have these character moments, you could say. So it's just like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, it's you know what I mean. It's just there's just a couple things I wish they would have they could have slowed down a little bit, maybe, or maybe less focus on the human characters, and then later on like focus on the robots first and more so, and less on the human characters, and then bring them in a little bit later. That would affect the whole story, I realized, but something along those lines. I just feel like there's too many things going on at once, and it's like, does Spike really need a girlfriend?
Right.
Do we need this whole moment with her and I forgot, Prowl? Is it Prowl? Is that, I always get him and Ironhide mixed up. Cliffjumper. Yeah, Cliffjumper. Yeah. Again, nice moment, but I'm like, I don't know if we need this. Like, it's just it's another like more on top of more, and it's just like, I've already got a lot going on. So I just feel like maybe someone else kind of helping, not maybe even scripting, but just like plotting and like scaling back a little bit might benefit. Carlos, what was your take? Are we crazy on this?
You know what? I never really thought of it my first time through, but with the second read, like I certainly noticed some of those jumps. And like, granted, I read it really fast. Like I think I misspoke, and issue 2 might be your jumping on point to Duke based on that cover you flashed up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. There certainly seems to be, like Zach was saying, like you're kind of in one frame, and then all of a sudden you take this jump to the next frame, and the characters that are involved would suggest that it's the same moment in time. However, there has to be a passage of time because they're kind of in a different state and ready to do something else. I almost wonder, because like the story, like you said, is there and the characterizations are there.
Yeah, it's all there.
And I think they do some cool things with Carly and Cliffjumper that maybe just didn't get the time to breathe with their sharing their loss.
Yeah.
And
It's a
then
great idea. Like that's a really good idea because it's like, war is something humans deal with. War is something that Autobots deal with. So that's like a great, yeah. I just wish it had been built up slower, like Paul was saying, kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe you do something like you resist the temptation of teaming up the girls, and you don't bring RC in, or you just bring her in and she's not tied to Carly right away, which then forces you to have to do something more in an already dense story with Cliff Jumper.
Yeah.
And like my experience with him was primarily through the Wonder Woman Dead Earth series, and then Jurassic League, which
Oh no, we lost.
Oh,
Did you
we
lose?
lost you. We lost you again, Carlos. I'm sorry. Come
no.
back.
Okay, you're
Come
back. You're
back.
back.
You're
Okay,
back. You're
I'm
back.
back.
You're good. You're good.
So
You're back.
I almost wonder if it's just the format. If he thrives in kind of a larger page count book, and that's maybe what's the stumbling block here.
Yeah,
But
I can see that.
just a theory based on what you guys were talking about with the pacing and some of the jumps and whatnot, and then my very limited exposure to his other work. Maybe it is just a page count issue, and him having to work in a traditional monthly format like this.
22 pages is not easy, man. Like as someone who's wants to write comics and has written like, scripts of like I've done the model of 22 pages because honestly it's easier for me to pace and like, as far as like character beats and whatnot through 22 pages as just finding that model of doing a one shot, which I effectively did with my friend Antonio for Space Demons, but we only released the first like 5 pages of online. Getting that to like 22 condensed pages is no easy task. I'm not saying it's easy by any means. Like he does a solid job, okay job. It's just like when you're dealing with so many different characters and you have 22 pages, it's a lot harder to do that than like Void Rivals, which has 2 main characters and you can just character build on every page and just like build up, So it's just there is when you're doing an ensemble book like Transformers, you gotta have it down pat. And so it's just interesting to see, like, it's ain't easy. 22 pages to do that. I mean, what he's doing in 22 pages is still not terrible. It's still like pretty impressive in that route. The problem is that you're sacrificing a lot. And because of that, it's a little jarring at times because here's the thing. I mean, the thing is how I'm explaining it. If you're going for drama, which again, I totally endorse, you have to spend the time building the drama up. Yeah. If you're doing that with an ensemble piece, you gotta scale it back. And I think that's the problem is he's not scaling. He didn't scale back. I don't know where did he continue to write the book because he doesn't draw the next arc, I believe, correct? Like did he write it, Carlos? Do you know?
Yeah, he's definitely wrote it.
Okay, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I think I heard he took a break and he took a break at some point and then he draws the next arc after that or something like that. That's what I heard. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, if the next arc, I'm curious if he's doing the art, if it gets better on this, does this same kind of issue persist maybe, or does he kind of catch his like footing a little bit?
It's certainly more focused. Like you'll have entire issues in one location with a tighter group of characters without giving anything away, which I was surprised. And now that we kind of put my read through a different lens, yeah, there is very much a tighter kind of focus on elements of the story, and it starts to pace out as though it's building to something grander. And you know what, maybe this first couple books, like kind of like Zach alluded to, maybe he was just too excited to play with all the toys, right? And like
get
all these Transformers in and get them fighting. And
it does kind of feel like that, where he's just like, I need to have like the coolest shit I've always saw in my head, and that needs to happen. Because I mean, there's no guarantees with like a series like this. You don't know, even if it's a really popular property, you don't know if it's going to last, more than 4 issues, so it makes sense to try to like get it all on the page, like
yeah.
Well, Transformers themselves, like look how many publishers that property's gone through in its recent history.
No kidding, man. No kidding. And MD's bringing up some good points here. MD, I'm not familiar with you before, so if you're new, welcome. Appreciate it. The passage of time is interesting. I will say that even just a little bit I've seen, it's hard to gauge a little bit that I've read with Void Rivals. How, and again, it's all going to connect at some point, obviously, Carlos. But even the little bit I've read with Cobra Commander, it's interesting because it definitely connects with Transformers a little bit without spoiling anything with that, which I thought was cool. I thought was a cool touch, And this is written by Joshua Williamson, which I love. His Superman stuff is just chef's kiss, super good. And he's written a ton of stuff which I've heard good things about. So I need to read more of his stuff. I dove into this after Transformers. I didn't love it, which is a bummer, but I may need to pick it back up because I love Cobra Commander. I won't lie. The origin of Cobra Commander, not the most compelling, if we're going to say that right now.
Well, like we said off mic, your mileage will vary with this depending on how much you're into the whole Cobra or G.I. Joe movie stuff. It's not.
I love Cobra Law. I love Cobra Law, but this
I love the G.I. Joe movie too, I gotta say.
Yeah. I like the Cobra. I like the movie too, but this was a little. I don't know about this. I don't know. Even with the Cobra Law connection, I'm not feeling it. I'll be honest. But I need to read it. I give Joshua Williamson some credit. He's a good writer. So, and he's also writing Duke, right?
I think that's a different guy. I think it's somebody else.
I think it's somebody else. I don't know.
Okay. Is Kelly Thompson? Kelly Thompson's writing one of them.
Kelly Thompson is writing Scarlet.
Okay. Which, by the way, I need to read. Kelly Thompson is maybe one of the most underappreciated comic writers out there. I don't love all her stuff, but when she writes stuff, like I usually pay attention. It's usually pretty damn good. The Black Widow stuff was good. Her Captain Marvel stuff was fantastic. She did a couple of issues of Spider-Man that I thought were okay. But she did some other stuff too. I didn't like Black Cloak. Birds of Prey. Oh my God. Birds of Prey is fantastic. But I won't lie, Black Cloak wasn't really feeling that. But
I don't know that one.
It's like an independent book that she put out, which I'm a little bummed about because I was really looking forward to like getting in touch with her own like character work, or creative work, or create her own work, and didn't connect to it quite honestly. But dude, Birds of Prey is I can't recommend that book enough. She is hooking on that book, so go check out Birds of Prey. But she's writing Scarlet. I gotta check that out because her Black Widow stuff was pretty good too. So, okay, right on.
Yeah, and Williamson did do Duke.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. Out of these first four, Cobra Commander was definitely my least favorite, but I just assumed it's because it's playing with the toys I've never loved. Like I'm not a huge Cobra Law guy, and I'm not a big Dreadnoughts fan. Like Cobra Commander is my dude, but
he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I had a friend who named his DJ. He was it was like 20 years ago now. He was called DJ Cobra Commander. I'm like, that is probably the most badass DJ name of all time.
That's amazing.
That's good. Yeah,
dude,
I like that.
Right? I was like, I don't think he ever did any DJ work, but I always want to steal that because
at
that's
the end of your
rad.
Set, you can play.
Yeah,
the
I'm like,
retreat.
Yeah, I'll be like, yo, this is my dubstep house music project called DJ Cobra Commander 2, the sequel. Anyway, no, this is rad, dude. Like I will say this, and I'm gonna put this under the playlist for like new reader friendly because this is tailor made for people who are going straight in blind with this stuff. And I give Robert Kirkman a lot of credit. He's done a really good job with it so far, and I think Hasbro should be pleased that who knows what the hell Paramount's doing with their stuff, but like the comics are putting a clinic of how you do it. And I feel like Void Rivals and putting these really creative, I mean, getting Kelly Thompson, Joshua Williamson, Daniel Ward Johnson himself, like he's been a murderer's row. And not to mention the artists I'm not really familiar with, they're by their names, but this are writers or the creative juices behind it. It's pretty impressive. So, Kirkman, man, he's doing some good work out there. So I'm glad we'll return to this. I want to keep reading Void Rivals alone at least, and I'll probably keep up and see. Do we know who's running I know G.I. Joe series is coming. When is that? Is Larry Hama doing that?
No,
am I wrong about that?
So not IDW, but Skybound did resurrect his Real American Hero book, so they've kept that continuity going. So it's in like the 300s now. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, so they adopted, and it's been pretty cool. Like, how much respect that they've paid to Hama as a writer. So they, IDW to their credit before that, and maybe even Devil's Due, but IDW for sure adopted the GI Joe book, and when Marvel
From
ended
Marvel, yeah.
Real American Hero, he just picked it right up, same numbering and everything, and now
Wow.
Skybound's doing it. But yeah, GI Joe comes out in November, and it's its own thing. Like the designs are quite different now, and it looks cool. Like they're doing some interesting things, and the GI Joe fan community is going pretty crazy for this line of comics. Like everybody seems pretty impressed, and um, yeah, they've accepted that they're doing their own thing with this book, and maybe it's because they've already lived a couple hard transitions in years gone
Yeah.
by. So we'll take whatever we can get. But yeah, the GI Joe fan community seems pretty excited as to where they're taking this new book and the new spins on the characters, and a few good guys are bad guys and bad guys are good guys, and yeah.
So who, cool. Really quickly, who is the writer for G.I. Joe? Do we know?
I'll look it up in a second here.
Yeah, let me look it up. So in closing, so Zach, I hardly encourage you not to go out and blow a bunch of money on these books. Not because they aren't worth it, but because it's expensive, and we're all, can't blow money on everything, right? But I read these through Hoopla, and I encourage you to do the same. And these are all available on Hoopla, like for free through the library, y'all. Like go, and you don't and listen, I've told you before, I'm like, get an iPad, digital comics on iPad are legit, but you read these on a monitor, like wasn't an iPad. How was that experience? How,
honestly,
explain that a little bit. Curious.
It was good. Like I just, I have like a big monitor for work and gaming, and so I just threw it up on there, and like, yeah, it's a really easy interface, and you can go into any panel individually that you want if you want to like blow it up. Yeah, it was great, honestly. Like, yeah, because it was, I'm really running out of space for my comic collection. So even more than like spending money on, I'm just like, I do not have the room unless it's like, one of my top 10 or something. So it was awesome to do that, and I was just like, it was, the only weird thing about it was there was it didn't have the issue breaks in it, so it was just like one chunk of 240 pages or whatever. So that was a little weird.
I think it's a Skybound thing, because normally they'd all have that. But I think because if I'm not mistaken, and Carlos, I think because the trades weren't that expensive on, In Stock is again, free publicity for In Stock, God damn it. But In Stock has good deals because they always get things a little bit discounted, right? But like, I think the page counts are down, and because of that, they're able to do it a little bit cheaper. And I think it's because they're not putting the covers on there. They're just like, because I noticed that thing too, but I noticed like I was doing some Silver Surfer stuff, just kind of long story. And they had they had the normal like trade that is digitally in there. I think Skybound just is probably trying to keep that page count limited, especially because there's like 5 million freaking variant covers. And if they put them on there, they'd probably be like an additional like 40 pages alone. So I mean, but I think that's a Skybound, which again is genius, to be quite honest. So but yeah, like, but you're reading it like through like, I think it's a Skybound thing more than a Hoopla thing. But
the other cool thing is like whenever it goes to like a big double page spread, it goes to 2 pages connected, and so that is like really nice. It's kind of beautiful to see that, so like that was like a cool part of it too. Yeah, it was really like easy to do, and yeah, I second your recommendation, Paul. If Hoopla is available, like you should definitely take advantage of that, because all you need is a library card and an email address.
Dude, it rules.
Yeah,
it rules. And I couldn't tell you how many comics I've read legally, people. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what site to avoid or to use. God, I've used it. I admit it. I've used it. I'm not proud of it. I've used it. But listen, I own DC on Infinite, which I love. Infinite's amazing. But Unlimited's good, but it's not as good as Infinite. I hate saying as a zombie myself, Marvel zombie. But Hoopla is the next step. That is the legal. I read all these through there, and it's great. And I've read through so many, not just main stuff, guys. I've read so many independent comics through Hoopla. It's been great.
Yeah.
Mad Cave, freaking like Vault. I've read IDW, Boom Studios, their Marvel, DC. It's all on here, man. And it's really impressive. And like they even have the individual issues. Sometimes they don't always have them like all the time, but they'll have the trades. So, I mean, like, I'll be honest, I'll probably be reading most of the stuff through trades, and I'm excited. We'll have to have everyone back and kind of do like a review, like how are we doing? How's the Energon universe doing? Because
as soon as I got to the end of Void Rivals, I was like, I saw the ads for Duke and Transformers and Cobra. I was like, I'm going to read all these. Like, I want to read all of this.
Because we can, because of Hoopla. I mean, it's great. And, maybe if we get really into it, maybe you'll buy the big, grand graphic novels, and whatever. Because Lord knows, like, I will buy shit I like that, I mean, I've freaking bought, God, how many times have I bought this freaking thing? Hold on, let me pull this thing up. I bought like this thing, like I've had like 8 copies of these comics for whatever, but I want to have the Epic. It's nice to have, like whatever. And like, I talk about this too, right? Like, how many times have I bought Robin comics, like trades? Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, I'll buy it if it's nice. I'll buy it. God damn it! Like, I don't mind supporting shit if I like it, So, I love Hoopla. It's amazing, and it's. And really quick, one last thing before we wrap up here, Zach. It has an option to do like how I do it. Because I love panel to panel. When I stopped buying physical comics, and Carlos, you do digital, I think mainly now, right? So yeah. So like for both you guys, for me, I go panel to panel, and then do layout very end because I want to see what the artist did for the layout. And I didn't really do that initially when I was doing digital comics, and I regret it. Because I'm like, God damn, I'm an idiot. Like, why didn't I respect the artist's layout? Because some of the layouts, I love them. The art. Go ahead.
I gotta go full page first. I always have to see the full page to like take in the flow of everything, and then depending on the art and whatever, then I'll go in to view the original panels. Like I'm reading collection of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez Superman.
Oh, amazing!
And like that stuff is killer, and when you go into the panels, it's like it's so detailed, it's so clean. Like I love like investigating his panels, but I always got to see the full layout first because I need that flow.
Okay, so do you read it as a whole page first, then go individually, or do you look at it, get the gist, and then read it? Because that's what I would do. I'd probably go. I think I'd go first. I think I take it back. I usually go panel to panel, then go out at the very end because I have bad eyes. So like panel to panel is like, oh God, it's a godsend sometimes. but I'll be real. It obviously especially with older comics, when you go up close like that, it don't always look good because it's not meant to do that, right? So.
Right.
But yeah, so you go first and then go out and then go into detail. But you read it layout first, then go detail after that, right? What you're saying?
Basically, yeah. Usually, like it's kind of simultaneous, I guess. Like I'm seeing the whole thing, and then I maybe going panel to panel, and then maybe at certain points zoom into whatever panel.
Okay, Carl, just really quick, Carlos, how do you read your digital comics?
Yeah, I read on iPad, so I always go full page because I'm always like, I like the layouts too, and I love catching when they have, and DC does it quite a bit, and actually the Spider-Man books where they breach panels, right? Even if it's just like a knee outside of one panel into like crossing the borders and stuff. So I love seeing that stuff. So full page, and then I'll manual zoom in between the panels. So it's not necessarily panel by panel, unless I get lost in the flow of kind of. There's the odd time where how they lay out the bubbles comes weird, and then I'll kind of use the panel by panel as a crutch. But if not, it's just kind of manual zoom on each to read.
Dude, I tell you. Panel to panel was a deal breaker for me, man. I fell in love with it. I loved it. Like especially with newer comics. It's not as good as older comics, but the newer stuff, it's just oh God, I love it. I can I can go through digital comics so much faster than physical. It's crazy. With digital, I can be like, oh, 6 issues, 20 minutes later, done. Like, and not in a bad way. It's just I'm like, okay, oh sweet, this is red. And it's just like physical. I'm like, okay, you know, which is great. I love it. I love it. I prefer physical, but like it just takes me longer. So you know, but yeah, I love there is I think there's a world where both have their place and have their moments, and I love them for different reasons. And I always will prefer the physical. It's just so much nicer and so much more engaging than the physical, but than a digital. But digital is it's great to go and like do a comic binge on, like, you know, I'll never forget, like I went on DC Universe and I just binged like a ton of like Doug Mensch Batman comics, right?
Yeah.
Like I just read a shitload of them and it was so much fun. And I was like, oh, I'll just keep going. And it's just like, I loved it, you know, like stuff like that. Like that's fun. You can't really do that unless you like go out and go, I'm going to buy Doug Mensch back issues. It'll cost me $4,000. And then like, you know, and then, or I'll buy the out of print trades will cost me $400. It's like, you know, it's like, if I just want to read them, I can go do that, which is great. So, anyway, this has been great, guys. I knew it was going to be always fun with you guys. So, Zach, where can people find you? Do you want to be found? I don't know if you want to be found.
I don't really have anything to promote, but yeah, I'm at Zach Mountain on Twitter if you want to see me complain about stuff and then praise some stuff that I like. But that's about it.
Yeah, you know what? That's I love the honesty. I love that. That's great. Because I bitch a lot too. I don't tell people. I should warn people I bitch more, to be honest. So you know, that's a good point. Because people are like, I can't wait to see this guy's positivity, and like, why does he hate so much? It's like, you don't know me that well. That's the problem. So
keep it real, man.
I tried it.
Dualities. You know,
yeah.
it's within all of us.
Duality of man.
Right?
Wow. No, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it, coming out and taking time out for this. We'll definitely get you back, obviously, for other stuff, but like for Transformers and all this shit, we'll do that too. Carlos, you're awesome. I love when you come on, dude. Like you're quickly becoming one of my faves on here, and
thank you.
Yeah, man. Like seriously, you give me a good balance of stuff I don't really read and are in different mindsets and ideas. So super appreciate you, homie. And where can people find you and your other exploits?
Oh man, I'm always honored that you have me on here. Like I truly love being on this show, and it was just like I said to my wife when I was heading down here. She's like, "Oh, you podcasting? Are you?" She's like, "You ready?" And I was like, "Oh, I just love doing the show. It's always a joy. Just kind of there's a love of comics at the heart of this thing, and it's awesome." But yeah, Twitter, you can find me on there loafing around as Canadian Cape Crusader, like on the screen there. Yeah, I pop in and out. It's a bit of a space right now with everything going on. So there's been many a time where it's open, close, and out we go. But I do a sub show with the Vigilante 1939 podcast, and once a month doing some box office stuff. And who knows? Maybe you might see me on here if you fellas want to do Duke and Cobra Commander. So
we'll continue. I think we'll continue because I would like to do more Void Rivals and more Transformers, and also include some of the random stuff. Maybe I won't read everything, but like maybe Zach will read one thing, I'll read another, and we'll kind of come back and see where we're at. You know, because I would like to read G.I. Joe too. Like maybe prep before G.I. Joe comes out. Like the new G.I. Joe series, it'd be cool to get all that kind of locked in. By the way, did you find out the writer of that? By the way, who's writing this?
Williamson and Jordy Belair, so the same crew that's doing Duke.
Fantastic. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to read Duke because Josh, I tell you, Zach, I've heard it's on Hoopla, and I think you're reading it too, Carlos. His Superman has been fantastic. Like, him and Philip Kennedy Johnson, like. It bums me out Kenny Johnson's not doing it anymore, but at least Mark Waid's taking over after Aaron. But like, dude, them together has brought me. I am like loving Superman. Like it has been fantastic, and his first 12 issues on Superman has been like some of the best. Go read it. It's great. Go.
Hey, it's on Hoopla. I'm gonna read it.
F yeah, dude. Like go. I think you'd be into it. I'm not sure if you'll be like, this is amazing, but I think you'll be pretty into it. Like, oh, dude, like this is some good ass Superman. Like, especially World Saga. Go read that first, then go World Saga, then go back, then kind of go all the way through like that if the trades are there, and read Action, because Action goes like his first arc trade in from Action after World Saga goes right into literally Joshua Williamson's Superman book, and it sets everything right. In my opinion, we'll just leave it there, because at this point, we'll just say Clark Kent is his identity is known as Superman. Like everyone knows him as Superman, and then things happen.
Okay.
And Williamson is behind it, and I was like, God damn! All right, I'm into this. So go read that. Carlos, I'm glad you're doing more stuff. I always do notice when you're gone, because I'm like, where's Carlos? And then you pop up. I'm like, oh, there he is. So just know you're missed when you are gone, but I understand completely when you do have to leave. And I'm glad you're doing podcast stuff besides the binge. So yeah, well, obviously you'll be on again, other shows, etc. Yada, yada, yada. So yeah, go subscribe, y'all. All that. Hate saying this, but I have to remind people because people don't want to do stuff. But anyway, Chris isn't here, so I'll say it. Read more comics. Next week, Caped Crusader. Not you, but maybe you. We'll talk about that. Caped Crusader, Amazon series. We're talking about it. Good night, y'all. Read more comics.